Okay, today we're going to be going over how to install a small to medium-sized graphic on a vertical surface. So we have here a Ford F-150 2017, and we're going to be installing a partial rear stripe with the Deadpool logo on it. The first thing you're going to want to do, as always, is clean your surface thoroughly. You're going to be applying this on. Glass cleaner, I like automotive glass cleaner. It seems to work the best. Spray it on, clean it off, make sure that's all evaporated. You're going to want to try and time this at a point where you're between waxings, or at least where you don't have as much car wash wax on the vehicle, just to help make sure that everything adheres properly to the paint. Otherwise you could run into an issue of the graphic not quite holding steady. Alright, so once that's done, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our graphic here. We already have it measured and cut, seam here to seam here, and then we're going to, we already installed the one on the other side, so we're going to measure this to make sure it's the same distance. We're going to come back about 1/16 of an inch right there. Alright. Make sure we're good vertically. It's going to come up a little bit. And it's just a little off kilter. Alright. We measure again just because we did move it. And good thing we really know you're not going to move, it's just straightforward. Here we go. The same old thing of measuring twice, cutting once. You don't want to try and take one of these off. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so try to make sure this is exactly at 6.5 inches, just like the other one was. Sweet, right where you need to be. Okay, so hang on that tight. Now you're going to want to take your, some sort of a tape, a paint-friendly tape. Green automotive tape is the best. I don't have any with me. I'm a very bad man. So we're going to use blue painter's tape. Just do a nice stretch horizontally. Make sure we have plenty. Just wrap around, hold it in place. Like that. Alright. Next thing we're going to do is make sure you have your application fluid. Again, little tip for you. This is just bottled water with a drop of soap. Hardly any to even make any bubbles, but there is a drop of soap in there. You can buy application fluid if you want to, but it's cheaper just to make your own with a drop of Dawn or Palmolive or whatever you choose to use. Okay, so we're going to start. I like to start from bottom to top. It is a preference. This just seems to be easier for me. So we start peeling the vinyl back at a corner, going in a diagonal pattern, pulling it up until we hit the tape, and coming around. This is a relatively easy pattern to work with. Alright, just hold it up there and there. Gotcha. Alright. And then you're going to want to grab a cutting tool. If you're using a knife, like I am, an X-Acto knife, be very careful around the paint of a vehicle, because you can scratch it. You can use an X-Acto knife, like I'm using, or you can use a scissors if you have one. I wouldn't recommend something as crude or as crazy as a pocket knife or anything like that, just because they're more difficult to cut with. Alright, so you take your application fluid, hit the area that you're going to be working with. The more water you have on there, the better. And then hit the vinyl as well. Again, the more the better. If you could do this like underwater in a giant fish tank, that'd be the way to go. nice tight little tug. Pull it taut and just lightly place it. Just a nice little, just enough pressure to kind of set it, but not permanently adhere it yet. Next part you're going to do is remove the tape here. And then, here, put your hand in here. And let this go. And we're going to do everything we did, just backwards. So we fold this down, then we grab a corner, and again we start kind of rolling away. Gotta be very careful, since there are cutouts in this. They may decide that they would rather stick to the backing paper instead of the transfer tape. This is the backing paper, this is the transfer tape. So you may have to stop, pause, and try and push them together. This one actually turned out to be fairly decent. So we're gonna soak it down, and then put your head up. Gonna soak this area down too. Water and application fluid are your friends. All right, so you can let it go. Nice, tight little tug. I'm pulling the corners in opposite directions, and I'm pulling it upwards. Where we need to be. Okay. Now, take a squeegee, or in this case, just a flat plastic card, and just very lightly adhere it. I've got a big air bubble and a big water bubble in there. You can see when I go out the side, looking for an escape route. That's not quite so important to get out for something that's this big. A lot of this graphic is flat, so you're not going to have a lot of intricate little pieces. It's going to be very easy to get off. We're not going to have to spend a lot of time holding it on here. Now, again, pick a corner, dealer's choice. I like to go from top to bottom just because I'm taller, it's easier to stand and start from a corner. Roll it, don't pull this way, you roll it in a diagonal direction, keeping an eye on the edges as you go. If you see a little bit of bubbling up, you just kind of pause and roll back. Just make sure that the edge isn't coming apart. Nice diagonal pattern. Just rolling with it, keeping it happy. Alright, just like, yeah, alright, just let it go. Okay, so you'll notice looking at it when you do something like this, you can probably see on the camera you've got a little pocket of air or liquid or something. It's going to be liquid here, here. It looks all nasty and bubbly. That's normal. So if you have a squeegee that's got some cloth on it, you will not need to get the outside wet. If you have a squeegee or a flat piece of plastic, you'll want to keep your application fluid on standby, because what you're going to do is you're going to come through, you're going to work these out. The interior ones are actually going to be very easy. Just hitting those first, you'll see that they're all nice and smooth. Now, the edges, you basically just want to kind of push at an outward angle. And I put the application fluid on the outside just to make sure that as I'm doing this, I'm not going to be scraping it with this little tool that I'm using. Chances of you damaging the graphic are very slim, but there is a chance. So why not just use a little bit of water just to be on the safe side. So basically when you're working stuff out, you want to work the little bubbles to the edges, the closest edge. So when you have this one here, you can go in any direction, but since it's closer over here, just kind of work it out. You can see I already moved it from here to here, just with that one. And I'm not hitting it like this. Some people like to do that. That's a little aggressive for me. I just like to coax it on down, just like that. Came out perfect. I had another one in here. Kind of nice diagonal. And another thing you'll notice is I haven't sealed the bottom piece yet. I'm going to do that very last because I'm going to be using that as an escape route for a lot of the trapped water and the bubbles and everything else. So you just work it out, work it out. Now, when you're doing this, it's impossible, well, I can say impossible, extraordinarily difficult and very improbable. You will get every single little scrap of bubble. You may have a little tweak in the vinyl that looks almost like a miniature fold. You can spend a lot of time working that out, and it's not going to work out for you. What I recommend doing is taking something like this where you have a vehicle, park it in the sun. A couple different options. In Texas, it's really easy for me to say that. I'm sure in most of the southern states where it's hot all year round, it's easy enough just to park it in the sun, let it kind of bake on there. A lot of that will kind of work itself out. It'll evaporate, and vinyl loves heat. It'll help it stick. If you live up north, or if you're doing something like this in the wintertime, there's not a lot of sun, or you're in a cloudy environment, then you can use a heat gun if you happen to have one. If you don't have a heat gun, you can use something else that does a fairly similar job. I wouldn't know because I don't have one. It's called a hair dryer. Anyway, I think I've used that joke before. Must be getting old. Okay, we'll go. Got tiny little bubbles here, which I'm not worried about. Tiny little one right there. All the big ones are gone. Not worried about those at all. So I'm going to go over them again. Just real easy, just to be sure. Because the less that it has to bake out, the easier it is. Give it about 2 days of being parked outside in the sun, and this sucker will be relatively permanent. I don't recommend taking this thing to a car wash for at least 48 hours. 72 if you can handle it. Be even better. Don't want to hit it with a power washer for at least a week, just to be on the safe side. This vehicle, I believe, spends most of the time parked in the garage, so hopefully he won't have a lot of need to clean it anyway. So you'll notice I've got this towel that's a microfiber towel designed for drying vehicles, and I'm putting some pressure on the black vinyl here because it's not going to hurt anything, but anything that's got an edge to it, just lightly, very lightly going over, because at this point you don't want to catch anything. Alright, a little bit right here. Walk this up. So you see the water just squirting right out. That is that. Get those off. Now I think his biggest problem he's going to have is that the back end on the side of his truck is clean, but the rest of it is not. But we like to call that a happy problem. Similar to Bob Ross's happy trees. Okay. Alright, and that, my friends, is how you install a small to medium-sized graphic on a vertical surface. Relatively easy. Just have to be patient, pay a lot of attention to detail. Make sure if you're working outside, you take all the necessary safety precautions. We're doing this in the shade. 2 reasons. 1, it's hot. 2, make sure that the vinyl doesn't prematurely stick while we're working on it. Alright, so that is that. Please feel free to subscribe to our page. It's the best way to keep up to date on things that we have going on, some new products, installation techniques. We'll be advertising and having one-day flash sales on our YouTube channel for our YouTube subscribers only. So please give us a subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment in the box below. We're always welcome to take any comments as long as they're constructive. And that is it. 1 set of custom Deadpool stripes for a Ford truck. Thank you very much, and we will see you all next time.